Hey guys, welcome to the Perfectly Wasted podcast. I'm the host, DullOxide. Today is episode 74 on free to play games. You can find all my previous episodes on the Drinking Wisemen YouTube channel, along with any other podcast I'm part of. You can find any day to day photos, cat photos, and cosplay photos on my Instagram. So, free to play games. Now, free to play is kind of loosely used on some of these titles. And now I say that because some of these games are pay to win in a way, but they are free to play. So you can download and install these games on your computer or your mobile device, depending on which game we're talking about here. And you can choose to buy maybe like expansion packs, whereas normally you could earn them and just play for free. So there's a couple of different, little catches to these, but these are still free to play games. And the way that I'm going to present them is in a way that, I've played them and how I like them without spending a dime on them. To start out, I want to talk about this game, Duelist. So it's a type of strategy game that you could play. It is free to play. It's browser based. You can play it through browser. Or you could install the actual application on your PC. So you could install it. You could play through the tutorials. It kind of seems like it seems like it's interesting. It's an interesting game, but it's very, very luck based. And I found myself more often than not really enjoying the gameplay because there was so much strategy to utilizing kind of your randomness in the game that it just made it not as fun for me. I prefer something that's very linear. If I've got a very random hand, I can build off of that and play through that. This requires a lot of strategy and placement of your troops, and really without knowing exactly what you're going to be able to do, it's kind of much more difficult, which made it much more difficult for me to have fun. And while I enjoyed the game and I enjoyed playing through the game, it just felt like people had the advantage that got better draws every single time. So there wasn't a real way that you can kind of even that out because the randomness is just it's just true randomness. It's too random. And without being able to even it out, it made it so that it wasn't fun. If I went into a game and I was playing with someone online, I found that more often than not, because they had been playing longer or had more of a selection of abilities and such, that they just smoked me pretty much every time. In this, you do have some movement, and it's kind of it's an interesting game. I don't want to say that it's not a good game. I did enjoy it, but I found that it was kind of for a free game. I felt like it was kind of hard to pick up and just want to play over and over again. So I'm gonna say I don't suggest this game for someone that just wants to like casually game and enjoy it. It seems like it's a decent free to play game, but it still kind of has some kinks I feel like that need to be worked out. But overall, a good game. If you're looking for an alternative, then you might land yourself on, say, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which I know is a mobile game, and I've done an episode on where I've talked about it before, but it's actually available on Steam now, too. Overall, like, you could get by with just not spending any money and just playing through the events and earning your own in-game currency, and you could do just fine. Like, when I was playing through and I was going to try and, be best in region or whatever, I hadn't spent any money, and I was getting pretty far. Now, the more that you spend, if you do spend, obviously, the better your chances are. But the packs are all random, so it doesn't really matter anyway. So you do have a chance with this, and I find that it's much more enjoyable. It's the same kind of thing that we get with Hearthstone. You go through and you can buy packs and make your deck better, or you can just earn them along the way, and you could still have a pretty decent deck. So that's the feel I get from this that I didn't really get from Duelist. So this Duel Links, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, I think is by far one of the better games that you could play if you're looking for a free-to-play game that's pretty easy to pick up. The tutorials are throughout the game pretty good, pretty in-depth. There's lots and lots of videos, in fact, on how you can make better decks. There's lots of deck suggestions, things like that. So you have quite a few options. Now, there are some other free-to-play games that don't just come into like card and strategy. They do have some strategy to them, but one of such games is the game Battlerite. Now, Battlerite is a game that I happened to come across when I was looking for another free-to-play game when I didn't really quite feel like playing games like, Fortnite or like PUBG and things like that. I was kind of not really enjoying Overwatch. I wanted something that I didn't have to pay a lot of money for that I can enjoy. Now, I've only played maybe 7 to 10 rounds of Battlerite online with another person, And I found that even though it wasn't like it's pretty competitive and you kind of have to know what you're doing, but it's basically you can have a 2v2 or I think a 3v3 even where you get into a group with a friend and you go into an arena and you basically just fight these guys, and it's kind of like communication between you and your friend, and it's kind of, you know, how all the other people play, of course, but some of it does have to do a little bit with understanding how the characters work, and without knowing the characters it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I found I was having a really good time playing this game, even without having real knowledge of the game. You know, it was very enjoyable. The matches were really quick. It was very obvious that you had to change strategy pretty quick if you were losing pretty easily. If you haven't played it, I'd say check it out. Maybe watch a couple of videos and get a little bit familiar with some of the characters. There is a tutorial that it forces you to go through. So you do learn a little bit of the beginning character that you go through and you get unlocked. It seems like they do a weekly rotation that's different for every person. So you might not have the same people unlocked as your friends, which is also pretty cool. But overall, this was a pretty good game. And that kind of is going to lead me into another type of game that you would think that I'd like, but at the time that I had played it, I didn't really like. And that would be Path of Exile. So Path of Exile, in the way that it was kind of pitched to me initially, was imagine that you're playing like Diablo 2, except for they continue to come out with content after Diablo 2 is made. And that's kind of what you're looking at. So the difference between the two is that at the time that I tried Path of Exile, which unfortunately I haven't played it super, super recently, but when I did play it, I was seeing that it was kind of not as smooth as how Diablo 3 plays. It seems like they had a lot of there's a lot of clunkiness to it, you know, most of which was with, for me specifically, was targeting. The targeting was just not really up to par. It wasn't really that great. And the monsters were, you know, it very much felt like Diablo. And I understand the draw of Path of Exile, where you have all these different trees that you can build into, and it makes it so that, you know, you have a ton of different opportunities. Really, it just reminds me of like a worse version of Diablo 3. Now, I say this, and I know a lot of people play this. A lot of people play this and really enjoy it, and I can understand why. It looks like it's a great game, and when I played it, I could see why it would be good. Now, do I think that paying for Diablo 3 is worth it? If you like how Diablo 3 runs better than you like Path of Exile, absolutely it's worth it. Now, if you don't have the money to pay for Diablo 3, is Path of Exile worth playing? Absolutely, I'd say it is. I really love the Diablo series, and I like the way that the games play, and the fact that Path of Exile is a free game that is close enough to Diablo 3 to be entertaining makes it totally worth downloading and playing. So if you are looking for a free-to-play game and you don't want to have to go through all of Blizzard's bullshit, for instance, and pay for a Blizzard game, then Path of Exile is the way to go. So the last game is Fortnite. Now, if you played PUBG at all, you know that Fortnite is similar to PUBG. There are some very, very drastic differences. There's some extra play modes that you have, but if you're playing the free-to-play version of Fortnite, where you're doing a battle royale, then it's pretty similar. There are a couple of things that I think that Fortnite does better than I think PUBG does, but that's kind of few and far between. For one, I'm not the biggest fan of the graphics in Fortnite. The graphics in PUBG aren't amazing, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. And the weapons and the way that they shoot and stuff in Fortnite just seems a little bit wackier. You know, it is more cartoonish, but the thing that really makes it unique compared to PUBG is that you can build inside of Fortnite. So you can build sniper towers, you can build defensive areas where you can res your friends up and stuff. Pretty interesting that you could do that. Another interesting thing that they have over it is that once you jump out of the party bus inside of Fortnite, which is basically the airplane in PUBG, you can deploy a glider. Now, you could choose to deploy that glider, and you can choose to retract it, which is pretty interesting, because in PUBG, if you let your chute go, that's it. You're just soaring. You're just going with your chute, and that's all you can do. Inside of Fortnite, you can you get some leeway, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of back and forth on which game is better. So Fortnite, quite enjoyable, actually. I do have my problems with it, but I do think that there are a couple things that it has up on PUBG that PUBG can learn from. I don't like that the other modes you have to pay for, but you know, they got to make money somehow. So This is a game that I would recommend playing if you are interested at all in playing PUBG. And this is kind of like your go-between again, where you have this game that you could play. And if you think you could play something that's a little bit better, maybe, I don't want to say more competitive because I'm not sure the competitiveness in this game compared to PUBG. But if you're looking for something that has just a little bit more to it, that is just like a little bit more fleshed out, then you might want to go ahead and pitch the money towards PUBG. So those are the games that I've checked out recently. If you have any free games that you think I might enjoy that you'd like to recommend to me, please do direct message me, let me know, or comment down below. If you disagree with me on any of these, by all means, let me know. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm making videos for. So please do like, subscribe, and share these episodes. Thanks again for joining us. As always, that was 10 minutes perfectly wasted.